Hello, my crafty friend, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's very special junk journal flip through video. You might notice one thing that's different about my hands, and that's that as well as wearing the gift with purchase ring, which I always wear somewhere on my right hand, my statement blue topaz cocktail ring has flipped over to my left hand ring finger. And that is because my dear Kenley and I are officially planning to get married next year. And I'm just so in love with this ring. I got so attached to wearing it that I didn't want to replace it with a diamond. So here it is in all its glory, now serving as an engagement ring. So anyway, I got really excited about that. That's how I picked this week's ring with purchase. And yeah, you may have noticed there was a brief hiccup on my channel. I took method acting a little bit too far, and that resulted in a live video that shouldn't have been on this channel. I didn't mean for it to be public. I meant for that to be a private video. So those of you who saw it, I didn't reply to comments there just because I'd prefer to keep this channel all about the crafting. So yeah, this little paper clip, or sorry, safety pin, is covered in beautiful charms that all had kind of a magical and somewhat sea vibe to me. This one here is a piece of shell, and they can actually be taken off the safety pin and worn as jewelry. So that's the kind of fun thing about this piece. This chunky talisman here, it's blue lace agate in its raw form, so it has some really cool little mini crystal formations on the faces. And hanging from it is a piece of jewelry in India called a jhumki, kind of like a bell-shaped dangle design. Then we have a charm of a little kitty cat with stars, an Egyptian scarab, an olive branch with a really pretty piece of green fluorite. This is probably my favorite of all the pendants that come with this piece. And last but not least, this was in a $5 jewelry jar, and I loved it so much I was going to keep it for my own personal stash, but it fit the theme of this journal too much not to share it. It's one of those cool vintage gilded seashells, and that one is attached actually to the paper clip, so if you wanted to, you could take it off by the jump ring to wear it as a little pendant. But yeah, I just thought those look super cute. Instead of having a tassel made out of fiber art this time, I did, yeah, a bunch of little pendant danglies. So this piece is really fun too. This is some recycled sari fabric as the removable closure. And this was a cool vintage bracelet that's still wearable, actually. You can take, if you pull the, oops, trying to get the camera to focus here. If you pull the sari fabric out, this is still a functional clasp, so you could wear this piece as a bracelet. Wherever the faux pearls or the faux crystals were missing, I went ahead and added little pieces of Amazonite, which is a beautiful sea blue crystal that helps awaken the throat chakra. So actually this whole set of crystals will be really good for communication, self-expression, creative ability. That's what blue lace agate and Amazonite are both for. And then this kind of green fluorite is wonderful for love, for the heart chakra, all that beauty and goodness. So here we go. This is how the journal looks when the closure is removed and the extra little goodies are taken out of the front pocket. The cover is these two beautiful pieces of fabric, both wrapped around. This one is antique lace that I bought at a local antique shop, and the texture is just spectacular in person. Like, these little ridges are all so three-dimensional and so cool. And then the big pocket along the bottom was gifted to me very recently by my friend May in Saudi Arabia. So May, thank you so much for this. In the back pocket, I put a page out of a Mad magazine from 1973, just because I thought it was kind of cool. The caricatures, the letters to the editor. But what I especially liked is that when I folded it up like this, we had just a cool little lineup of 70s looking people. So that could be a fun piece, whoever buys this journal. And that could be a fun piece to add to your collage art or to just keep as part of your paper stash. On the front, I put this really pretty ceramic pin. Pardon all the background noise. I'm not home alone today. But yeah, there is a peace dove flying with a pretty little olive branch in her mouth. And I thought that was kind of a nice way to mirror the olive branch that we have on the little cluster of jewelry bits there. Anyway, the mermaid's dream is the general theme for the book, and yet this picture of Cinderella kind of listlessly gazing into the distance, maybe dreaming of how her life could be different, maybe the same way the mermaid dreams of being a girl, there's a girl out there dreaming of being a mermaid. So you'll see that theme come in again a little bit later. This pretty piece here is a cutout that I made by printing a really cool specimen of aquamarine crystals on some paper that has like a linen texture to it. So I added that to one of these really cool 1950 receipts from a plumber in Austria that I think are just so cool. Oops. And then that was also tucked into this front pocket here. Yeah, thanks to Angelica for those really cool old receipts. They are just adding so much color and texture to the books I make. This is one of the gold plates that I made a couple weeks ago. And then last but not least in this little pocket, I took a vintage wine label that shows the goddess Diana with one of her attendants, and I held it together. Sorry, I affixed it to one of these cool tags, and I coffee dyed some of the others, but that gives you some really good journaling space. And yeah, this is just a really cute little sea turtle earring that I found in a junk jewelry jar. It's really adorable though in that it's quite detailed. So I used that as a brad to hold these pieces together. And then I just snipped the earring back so that it would be flush with the little rubber stopper. And that way it's not a dangerous piece. It's not going to start tearing up the paper that's behind it. I thought that was a cute little touch. So yeah, if you ever find a little earring and you'd like to use it as a brad, wire trimmers are all you really need, and you can cut it down. Anyhow, inside, I've lined it with one of my favorite of all time vintage fabric finds, these pretty blue flowers. And then since the pattern's a little bit diagonal, I glued these two coffee dyed fabric flowers from May, glued them down on the diagonal as well. But yeah, the upper corner has my favorite piece, a lovely upcycled Lakshmi that was from a piece of jewelry that I bought in South India. I couldn't do a mermaid themed journal without including a page of vintage seashell illustrations. That's from one of my best little book finds of all time. So this is out of a crafter's magazine from the 1960s. I took a double page. Look at that pretty detail there. Took a double page and just used it as packaging to hold this card of washi tape samples. And I don't think the camera's picking up quite how beautiful it is. Maybe it is. But it has koi fish and just beautiful watercolor-like details. It looks stunning laid over paper. And I was going to rip some pieces of washi tape off to decorate various pages within this book, but then I decided maybe whoever buys the book would rather do the decorating herself, himself, herself, or themself, depending on who buys it. But yeah, I just thought that was a cute little way to disguise the washi tape so that it doesn't break from the vintage vibe that the book's had so far. And then this is just a cute little miniature illustration, of a sapphire and pearl necklace made to look like a book cover. And that's just blank on the back. I wanted to include plenty of actual journaling space for whoever buys this one. Yeah, another one of these 1950 receipts from Angelica. This one includes a check stub and just such cool writing. An amethyst that I cut out. All of these crystals that you find throughout the book, I've attached them with little balled up bits of washi tape that has a cherry blossom pattern. So that is also reusable. And it makes this into a no-waste junk journal because even the little bits of washi tape are decorative and reusable, the hidden pieces. That's one of the only printables I used in here. This is a piece from an old school atlas. Oops. This is from a 1912 Architects and Engineers manual. Two more of these stickers. I'm not going to try to hold this down behind these anymore. I'm just going to fold it in. Beautiful piece of paper that Kat Stone sent me. She sent me quite a nice little stack of these, and it just goes beautifully with the almost fairy tale vibe in this book. Here's a tea bag, the packaging from a tea bag, and in it I put a vintage tea card that my Auntie Mary Lynn found for me recently. Thank you, Mary Lynn, if she's watching. But that flips back to show this lovely picture. I think that was by My Porch Prints. I could be mistaken. I've ordered so many printable kits at this point. Some vintage graph paper. And I should mention this gorgeous coffee dyed paper here was made by May. So is my background paper for this video. This is one of my favorite pages. It's like having a set of shelves on the page made out of these cool purple Sri Lankan train tickets. So in one, I put a little, I think there's two here, a little pair of While You Were Out notice cards from probably the 80s, from back when there would only be one phone among a whole family full of people. A little bridge scorecard with a lovely angel on the front. And then in the top, this is by the Paper Cameo, just a cute little envelope. And inside it, there's a cute little note paper with a shooting star. So little Make-A-Wish free ephemera piece. But I love putting things within the junk journal that are tactile and interactive. So I love that kind of a page. This flip out is a gorgeous image of a geisha on some really, really pretty origami paper that my Auntie Mary Lynn gave me. Another cool Mary Lynn find. And then on the other side of that geisha is wallpaper from a Sears wallpaper sample book from 1928. And then this one is from a roll of vintage wallpaper that I found at a local shop called 252 Old and New. She has really cool finds that are just perfect for journals. Page out of an old illustrated dictionary. I love this spread. This is one of my favorite spreads in the book. I love this mermaidy blue. And then this comes out, it's just held on with a stick pin that's also removable. The stuff I put into this book, I was thinking of that scene in The Little Mermaid. I loved The Little Mermaid when I was a kid. This you can use as a pocket page. Dyed handmade paper, tea-dyed. But anyway, there's a scene where Ariel is taking Flounder to her favorite little hidey hole place where she's gathered all kinds of stuff from that have fallen overboard from ships, like cups and saucers and different things like hairbrushes and mirrors. And she's just talking about her collection, like, look at this stuff, isn't it neat? And she goes on about just these random things, and she doesn't even know what to do with them, but she collects them because they look cool. And I thought, isn't that the case with a lot of us junk journal artists? Like, I wouldn't know what to do with an applique like this when it comes to making clothing, you know, its original purpose. Or, you know, how to take secretarial notes in shorthand, or things like that. A lot of the stuff we use in our junk journals, like these receipts, I don't even know really what the product was. I know it was plumbing, but it looks cool in a book. So the idea of this being like a mermaid's dream or a fantasy could be what a mermaid would see if she encounters life on the surface and then tries to make sense of what all the cool stuff is. So this was another find that I found at that antique shop, 252 Old and New. It's a Sweetheart needle book, and it's just so pretty. Look at that vintage graphic. Super, super cool looking. And then inside, it doesn't have all the original needles, but it does have the original threader and some needles. And look at the cool spider web detail. Like if you look at the foil, it's all spider webs. Like, how cool is that? I don't know if that's what they were going for, but I thought that looked really good tucked into this page from May. Some 1960s ledger paper, a little Moldavite bit, a couple extra Goddess Diana pieces, just because I love to include a goddess with my journals. This page can be used as a pocket. This one left a lot of room for the future owner to grow into it. Love the texture of this handmade paper. This is something my grandparents brought back from their travels. It's definitely Caribbean. Here we see our mermaid. So this is actually a double-sided postcard, or not postcard, sorry, a double-sided bookmark. But yeah, I loved this image of a mermaid. I wish I could give artist attribution, but she came up when I was searching Edwardian art, like antique mermaid art. I don't think it's Arthur Rackham, but there's a similar vibe to it where she has this sort of whimsical, mystical look, and yet there's something gritty about it. Like she's not on a pure white sandy beach. She looks like she's somewhere like on the River Thames, maybe. She's somewhere very urban, not necessarily a seashore. It could be a river shore, or it could be a port city. But yeah, she's the inspiration for the theme of this book, being the mermaid's dream. So as she's sitting there, not really sitting, but as she's propped up in cobra pose, sort of, the look on her face, she looks really content and happy with herself. So I don't necessarily see her as a mermaid who wishes she was a human woman, but maybe from time to time she imagines how it might be. Anyhow, this is the center of the book, so it folds over like this, and then this folds open like that to reveal one of my other favorite vintage images of all time that shows a fairy in front of a grotto. So maybe if that mermaid wished hard enough, this little fairy might appear and give her the chance to live as a human. Or maybe the Cinderella on the front cover would have this little fairy appear as her godmother and grant her the wish to see what it would be like to live among the mermaids. Yeah, I definitely think of these journals as a milieu for storytelling. This really pretty handmade glass bead definitely gives ocean waves vibes and layers of sea in a seascape portrait. So that's just there between some gold-colored beads from India. our bluebird of happiness. This time is sea swallow. And I should mention that the pockets I made out of this old wrapping paper, some of my favorites. And I'm kind of just skipping over all the antique music pages. Thought this made a fun journaling card. Whenever I've gone to the beach or to, especially a lakeside beach or a river beach, I've noticed a lot of dragonflies. Okay, here we go. This to me is always the star of the show, the favorite part of the journals I make. The flip outs that are filled with samples of different textiles. I hope the lighting isn't too dark in here. Let me just see if I can increase that. Yeah, I had to close the window because the sunlight was too glary, but now I'm just hoping I didn't make it too dark. Anyhow, you can probably adjust the brightness on your screen if need be, right? So yeah, an extra one of these cool coffee dyed textile flowers, some vintage dotted fabric that I found at a local thrift shop, some vintage beaded sari, some vintage green raw silk. I wouldn't buy silk new for the sake of the silkworms, but this was from, I think, the 70s or the 80s. So it was a vintage piece. Another vintage beaded sari piece. This gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. Oh, I just love it. Front and back. So that's why I couldn't glue it down in the book, because the back is that gorgeous, shocking pink. Some purples. I tried to give an eclectic assortment in this one that looked like, you know, if you were a mermaid dreaming of being a person, what kind of fabric would you dream of wearing? And here we have her maybe growing wings. Maybe now she'd rather be a fairy. It's kind of all the little whimsical fantasies. This is just kind of taped in so you can, oops, take it out easily and reuse that tape even if you wanted to. More of the May paper. This gorgeous woman was painted by Kat Stone, and the dress that she's wearing reminded me so much of a children's book of The Little Mermaid that I had as a girl. That was not the Disney version. It was the original, I think, Grimm Brothers story. But there's a scene where the Little Mermaid is dancing and she's wearing a sheer green thing with lots of tassels dangling from it. And this outfit looks so much like what she wore to dance. And then, of course, a gorgeous red-headed mermaid playing with a seahorse. Kat Stone has the most vivid imagination and whimsical way of expressing her characters. And that fold out is just a cool vintage graph paper. Some Dutch music sheet. The other half of that vintage French playbook. This is just pinned in so you can take it out. It's some really cool Japanese fabric with lucky koi fish on it. And that's holding in some coffee-stained paper. Coffee-stained tracing paper, so that gives that good crinkly texture. And then this piece here is a late Edo period page out of a pilgrimage book to Kuan Yin temples. I think it goes this way. This is the top. And I love how there's a circular symbol. It reminds me of seeing the sun or the lunar sphere. Just beautiful, beautiful calligraphy. And that's original. That's not a print that I made. That is original to the late Edo period, which in Japan coincides with the Victorian era. So we're looking at late 1800s, probably the late 1880s. That old dictionary page again, so cool with the illustrations. Oh, here we go. I didn't even realize what was on that page, but we have the goddess Nike and a nimbus. Very cool. I love those illustrated dictionaries. And the thing that you heard fall was this cute little print. Cute little print of some rainbow fluorite. Here's the other side of that gorgeous geisha paper. I love that each side makes for a perfect composition. Like you can fold it down the middle and get two equally lovely images. And I love the stacked stones here. It reminds me a little bit of Inukshuks, which are the friendly North American, North Canadian rock people that you see in the Northwest Territories. But this looks like a Japanese version of that really cool tower of stones in this garden where she's lounging. Just love that paper. There's the other side of that. I think it was My Porch Prints. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows this paper. It's so pretty. Another fold out of this stunning May paper. She's the queen of coffee-dyed paper. This illustration from that book from from 1912. And this is also original. Unless I said it was a print, literally every page in this book is original. This illustration from that 1912 Engineers and Architects book is so cool. It definitely looks like something for charting the stars, doesn't it? Like, the instrumentation is just so cool looking. Anyway, the other half of that map book. This butterfly lifts off. So she's not too sticky. She's kind of like washi tape texture, so the butterfly can be moved around. We have a chrysocolla taped in place. Another beautiful Japanese illustrated girl. The other side of that 1950 receipt. And then we're at the back pocket. So the back inside pocket is made from another piece of cool sari fabric over that same material, my favorite of all time. I put in a couple of old playing cards just because I think they're pretty to look at. You can turn those into journal cards if you like. And Silly Ambrose. That's just a page from an old children's book that I found antiquing. And I tucked it in there just so that the page wouldn't be empty. Oops. This definitely belongs right there. So yeah, there we have it, the Mermaid's Dream, or the Maiden's Dream, however you like to call it. I think the book turned out quite beautifully. She is sized, pardon me as I step aside for a minute, sized a little bit differently than the usual. She is just under 9 inches long by just under 4 inches wide. So she's a little bit smaller than the full 8.5 by 11 folded, but I think one of the prettiest covers ever. Thank you, May, for the fabric. Thank you to everyone who has sent me gorgeous things that I've used in this and other books. Apologies to those who were alarmed by the live video. I'll make up for that by making some more good crafty videos in times to come. And don't worry, I will not be missing my Saturday uploads. Oops, I almost forgot. Saving the best for last. My regular viewers know that one of my favorite things to do with the journal is give away a coordinating ring. By the way, sorry, that's a squeaky floorboard that I'm filming next to if you hear squeaky sounds off camera here. Let's see. Try to get that to focus. Here we go. So I found this ring when I was out antiquing at a local antique shop. It was only $3. So it's not anything real. It is stamped 925, but I don't think it's real silver. That would be too good to be true, wouldn't it? But yeah, this one reminded me so much of my favorite blue topaz ring that I felt like it has to be part of the Mermaid Dreams journal set, because when I was a little girl, I really, really wished for a big, beautiful mermaid colored blue stone, just like this one. So anyway, I'll tie it to the closure But for now, I'll just end the video. I'll do that stuff, organizational stuff off camera. Just wanted to show. I'm sure it's just silver plated and glass, but it sure is stunning. All right, so thank you for watching. This will be available for purchase in my Etsy shop, so I'll put the link to that in the video description. So much love to you. Happy crafting. Happy almost summer. Bye for now.